All right, we're back with another episode of Coffee Break. And unfortunately, Liam, not behind the decks today, but
Liam.
We do have Sam. It's Sam. I mean, you need to get behind the mic. Come on, you need to get in there for your conversation.
All right, is that a little bit better?
Sam, who are you? What are you doing here?
I've just set up the cameras, and that's about it.
All right. Sammy works with us at Golden Brown Coffee. He's our cameraman, but today he's also audio engineer and putting it all together for us. So we're lucky to have him. Thank you for joining.
Thank you for having me. If it sounds bad, you know who to blame.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I said I was responsible for setting up the mics and stuff today, so we'll see how it goes.
Yeah,
Liam might kill us.
What a great episode we just had with Dani. What a pro. We got a lot of great people through, but she was, you could tell, just pro journalist, had a lot of great points ready to go off the bat, and really enjoyed spending the time with her.
And for those listening abroad and even domestically, Dani's probably the most senior food writer in all of the country for a masthead. So she works for The Age and has her own stuff, but she's probably as heavy hitter as they come.
And she works with the Good Food Guide, right? So Good Food. So that for the Americans would kind of be like our version of the Michelin Guide kind of thing, where they go around Melbourne and award restaurants hats and that kind of thing, because we don't have Michelin here.
Wouldn't that be a hell of a job?
Oh my God. Just go to the best restaurants in the world, see how it tastes.
And she was a travel writer before that. So her whole journalistic career has been, the model of how you want to enjoy your media career, to be honest.
Yeah, for anyone that wants that advice, it's about just putting yourself out there. She got into it because she was just working as a journalist, and they said, hey, we need someone to go to like Turkey to eat at this place. And she was like, yeah, I'll go. I'll do it. And now ever since that,
just imagine being in the office for that. It's like kind of selling it as, have I lost my mic? Can you hear me?
That's just dropped a bit, but I think Sammy was just pulling down the sound there. Hopefully it's... Sorry for the technical difficulties on this episode, guy. We've got a bunch of idiots just working, including myself.
But imagine being in the office and putting your hand up for it. Oh, yeah, I guess I can go to Turkey.
Yeah, I guess I can do that. Now, my favorite part of the pod there, and Kirk, you never hold back, was just diving into how you think the media is pushing their agenda with the price of coffees and doing all of that. And you could see Dani just had that instant reaction where she's like, oh, she obviously gets it all the time where people are like, the media. She's like, we're just doing a job and putting stuff out there. How did you think you were? I thought you guys did quite well. There was a nice tension there for a little bit. It felt good.
I think she, to a degree, understands though. Yeah. I mean, maybe I came across as somewhat of a tinfoil hat wearer, but like, I just feel like there is a lot of media fixation on the price of coffee right now.
Yeah.
And it's actually quite toxic for operators.
Yeah.
So
when they're focusing on the certain things, I don't mind when people, I was kind of bringing up on the pod that when it was talking about how coffee's now at average at like $6 or whatever, I was like, yeah, that is getting to a norm. And they did both sides. They went and, interviewed Saint Ali. They were one of the first people to do it. And they kind of talked about why that is the case. I don't think people really care about why it's the case. They're just annoyed that it's $6. But your point was there was a recent article where they were talking about like $8.50 or something. And that's just not the average price of a latte.
Well, it's just so they were saying it was this sort of scaremongering quote, and they were saying that it's going to be $8.50 for a coffee. And the quote was sourced from a podcast, which was from some guy in South Australia. And it's like, all right, well, I mean, first of all, your source is just some random on a podcast. Second of all, it's from a guy from South Australia. not poking holes.
That's the hole.
I'm not being mean to South Australians, but it's like, where did this come from and why? And people are getting so outraged by it, and it's not even true.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I agree with that side of it. I think it's ridiculous when we're pushing that. Also, we got some great. He's a little behind the curtain. So we recorded the Dani episode last week. We're now picking up. She recommended that I go to the Panotta just around the corner. They just got awarded a hat. Really good. If you're in the Fitzroy North area, head down to Panotta. We had some beautiful oysters, marinated feta, and they had this beautiful like squid ink and prawn pasta that was just like off the hook. It was so delicious.
I've been a vegetarian for about 3 years now, and I think seafood is the thing I miss the most.
Yeah. Particular seafood?
I'm a big fan of all your shellfish. I love prawns.
Yep.
Chili prawn linguine was always one of my favorite.
Yeah.
Scampi.
Love scampi. Love a Moreton Bay bug.
In Australia, we're very privileged to have access to some of the world's best seafood.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oysters. Love a good oyster.
Yeah, that's a tough one for you to cut out on Yeah, I feel for you there. A while ago, I was like, I don't think I could ever cut out meat entirely. I think that in the world that's like coming up, like I've become a much better cook in the last 6 years. I've been exposed to a lot more cuisines and a lot more things. And there's definitely certain cuisines where you're like, oh, I could be vegetarian if I like Indian cuisine. I'm like curries and that. You're like,
well, that seems to be what gets me through. Lots of pasta, lots of curry. I mean, if you listen to this podcast regularly, you'll know I love curry.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I've definitely cut out a lot of meat in there. I still probably eat quite a bit of chicken, but I've cut out a lot more pork, beef, a lot more of the more unsustainable kind of meats and that kind of thing.
See, what's your take on fake meat? Because, I mean, the reason to become a vegetarian was not to just go and eat some sort of counterfeit meat.
Well, no, I think that fake meat is like makes complete sense because there are people who are cutting out meat because they're trying to do the right thing for the planet or for animals, you know, around the world. But they love the meat. They're not saying they don't love the taste of meat. They're like, I just don't want to kill a pig. But then they're like, if I could eat something that tasted like pig, then that'd be pretty good, wouldn't it? Or like if I could have a burger still that isn't a dead cow. So I'm down for fake meat products and that kind of stuff. Although don't think it's good for you. That stuff is just as highly processed as any other meat and is probably terrible for you. But if you just want, you know, the joy of having a burger, but you don't want to kill a cow, then, you know, all power to you.
Fried mushrooms. Yeah, the fried mushrooms. Anyway, coffee stuff. Let's have a quick chat about the machine review. I think that one, it was interesting. It went a little off tap, a little unexpected in what it is. I will put my hand up as the first thing and say, I dialed in all those machines maybe the hour before the pod. And then definitely as we were making the coffee, I could see that some of the grinds must have like gone off, changed, and some of them definitely ran a bit fast. So even from just visually, like the Smeg ran the best as I ran the shots, but I wasn't going to start trying to dial in while we're live in a podcast and trying to do it. So there definitely was that inconsistency, but that also speaks to a review of the machine, right? That it like the consistency of the grind and how it was. There were definitely better tasting coffees earlier before we'd done that blind taste test, but I think that's kind of the fun of doing the blind taste test. I've got to be honest. I was most skeptical of the Smeg.
Yeah.
I thought going into it, I thought the Smeg is going to do the worst job, and it came out making the best coffee.
Yeah.
So.
And maybe there's a bias here. I definitely, when I just tasted all the coffees when I was dialing it in, the Smeg was definitely at the lower end for me when I was just tasting them from where it went. So I know from that the Sunbeam machine ran quite fast. And then the Breville is a whole different kettle of fish. Now, Dani wanted to keep that in because she wanted machines that covered a range of things. But I thought it was quite a hard test because it's completely automated and you don't have to do anything. Yet for the other machines, it's completely manual, which you've got a, you know, professional barista in me doing that. So I feel like that's always going to outperform a automated machine to that ability. But the Breville is, if you have no idea about coffee and you just want to press a button, it can work really well. But is it going to stand up against a professional barista with a manual machine? Probably not.
Should have had me doing the milk frothing. It would have been pretty even then, I reckon.
Oh yeah, balance you out. Get Sam. That's the difference, right?
Get one of the punters in.
Yeah. But I thought that was cool, and I will kind of base level say, pretty much all those machines that we're doing are going to make you a decent coffee at home. We kind of did the TDS. They were all in that, you know, espresso-y range that we were looking at. They're all going to do a decent job as long as you're kind of getting it from those main kind of providers of the Breville, Smeg, DeLonghi. What else do we have? Sunbeam we had in there.
I must say, like, I feel like if you, my question to you is, if you're in the market to, say for example, you're setting up your home espresso machine setup and you're starting from scratch, do you think it's more worth it if you must have like a milk coffee or an espresso? Do you think it's more worth it to just drop $1,000 on that, or do you think would you rather spend an extra like $1,000 or $2,000 on getting an even better setup? Like,
if I was someone who just wanted a flat white, like a milk coffee of any type, any of those machines are going to be fine. My personal kind of experience, especially if using a regular coffee roast that's chocolatey and whatever, and you're making a milk coffee, anything from the Breville Bambino at a couple $100 through to that kind of Barista Express, Barista Pro, like that kind of level, or the DeLonghi Specialistas, they're going to make a fine milk coffee. Some of it comes down to the preference of how you use the machines and how it goes. The next step up, it's when you start looking at wanting to try different specialty coffees, wanting to drink black coffee, that you really need to start considering your grinder and your machine more. That's when I'd start looking at getting a machine that has a separate grinder so that you can A, pick the grinder that you want, B, upgrade it as you go along, because the grinder is going to make such a huge difference in what you're doing.
And this is one of the most frequent questions I get from my non-coffee friends. They're saying, I want to buy this. What do you recommend? Or I'm buying this as a gift for someone. What do you recommend? You're always like, the grinder really is so important when, it's one of the most important things. It's going to impact how your coffee machine actually performs.
Yeah. And it's going to be the starting point of every coffee that you make. You can never take bad grind, no matter how good your espresso machine is. You can't take a bad grind and make it good with an espresso machine. The grind is always going to be the starting point and where you can get good espresso from. So for me, that's always going to be that starting point that's going to be important. And then you start looking into things that you need to consider, like, do you want a single dose grinder? Are you that type of coffee person where you want to weigh out your coffee, throw it in a single dose one, and get it? And that means you're going to get probably like less retention. Your beans aren't going to get as old quickly. But if you're someone that has a few people using it, you might just want the hopper where you can dump in a bag. Yes, it probably ages and oxidizes a little bit over a couple of days. You can minimize that by pouring in less at a time as you do it. But that one's a lot more convenient. And then there's stuff like, do you want a grinder that can do espresso and filter? So that's when you start asking those questions. But I think a good grinder, and even just using like a Breville Bambino, is going to get you a better result than like a mediocre grinder and a good espresso machine.
Yeah, 100% right. And those Breville machines now have like a lot of firepower within them to be able to make a good coffee. You just grind along with it.
Yeah.
You got everything made.
Yeah. It did make me think, you kind of brought this up. I really enjoyed doing that. Just smashed the table there. Never mind. It did make me think, we should do some more stuff like that. I really enjoyed doing the blind tasting, checking out the machine. So I think that's a kind of cool idea for podcasts moving forward, especially if we do some episodes without a guest. You and I can kind of just break down some different coffee machines. You had an idea as well about speculating about the future.
Well, yeah, I just think in the time that I've been in coffee, which is about just over 10 years now, it's changed so much. So everything's changed so much in terms of the machinery that you use to some of the grinders that you use. And I think it's really accelerated. So when I first got in, I think the coffee industry looked up to wine a lot. And to be honest, we still do. But it's the gaps closed a little bit in terms of like how far ahead of us they are.
Yeah.
But I kind of feel like it's going to revolutionize so much more in the next 10 years. And as companies invest more in developing products for the home market, and you've worked with a few great startups yourself through Golden Brown on like people that are developing products that will sort of change the game. And I just think in 10 years, honestly, there probably won't be the use for home espresso machines probably won't be there.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
I mean, there's the speculation. Is that from like what's the side of that? Do you just think it'll be pre-made for you, or do you think?
Yeah, there'll be like, why would you go to the effort to make an espresso on an espresso machine where you probably won't make it as well as a shop would? But in the future, there'll be a take-home product where it's an espresso that you take home, whatever. All you need to do is add milk to us at a certain ratio, and then what do? You steam it.
Yeah.
So, something like...
So maybe it's just the morning dream that we've worked with, which is just a standalone steamer by itself. Is the type of product
this is not
that
a paid promotion, by the way. This is...
No, it's just you said the startups that I've worked with, and it kind of just popped into my head.
Honestly, I think espresso machines at home...
We should make it a paid promotion, though.
Yeah.
We'll cut this out unless you pay us money.
and I think as well, like... For me, the reason why I asked you before about whether you're willing to spend extra is like, if you want to make coffee at home, chances are that your threshold for, you're happy to accept a lower quality coffee than you would get at a cafe. So then I asked myself, well, why wouldn't you just enjoy it black?
Oh man, we need to dive. See, this is the coffee break where I said there's so much like, I just don't, it's a crazy thing. It's like, I don't know where your levels are at, but you obviously work at a great cafe that makes very high quality coffee, right? And there's places like generally the quality is pretty good at Melbourne. I reckon with a Breville Bambino or whatever, I could make a better coffee with that 7 times out of 10 than what I'd get at a cafe.
Okay. But you're a reasonably safe set of hands, though.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just saying that I think the quality level, if you know what you're doing, can be up there. And it's not that other cafes are bad. If a cafe is making 500 cups a day, what percentage of those are a 9 out of 10? What percentage of those are 8? What percentage are a 7 out of 10, you know?
And I would say to that you're right. There's a lot of mistakes that can be made at a cafe. The perfect coffee doesn't exist, right? And it's so hard to repeatedly make coffee good. So, every now and then, by sheer matter of numeracy, you are going to get a bad coffee at a cafe. Yeah. It's just going to happen.
Yeah. But yeah, I like the idea of doing a future pod where we talk about the future of home espresso, or maybe even comparing it to the cafe market. Are the same leaps that have been made in the cafe going to be applied to the home market? It does not matter. Like grind by sync, right? There are now coffee machines and grinders that it'll measure the flow rate on your espresso machine, and if the grind's off, it'll automatically adjust the grinder. So it's changing the grind size on the grinder. I mean, we're kind of set. The new Breville Oracle Jet that we tested kind of did that. You had to change the grind, but it tells you that your flow rate is too fast and to change it.
But this is the thing. The way the coffee industry is evolving is that maybe even grinders become obsolete for commercially in the next 10 years. But I guess the one obstacle to that will be the consumer. Yeah. Is the consumer happy to accept something that's not really made from start to finish before their eyes? Like part of the romance of coffee and why people enjoy it is they go there, they smell the coffee being ground and all that sort of stuff. So I think the consumer will be, does that get through or does it not?
Yeah. All right. Jot it down. Future of Coffee podcast coming soon. We'll chat through all that. Now you DM'd me a little a video of Emma Chamberlain the other day.
I did.
And it was quite an interesting video of her take. She's talking about Q graders and her feelings. We can pull that up right now and have a listen.
You want to have a listen?
Yes, have a listen.
All right, so I'm hoping it's still connected to the Bluetooth over here. Can we hear this?
Flavor notes. There are people called Q graders. They're trained to taste these flavor notes that an annoying person you went on a date with pretends to have. They smell the living fuck out of a cup of coffee. Professionals will taste little sips of an espresso and let it coat their tongue, and they'll close their eyes and they'll breathe in and out, and they'll dig into the back archive of their brain, and then they're like, it's leather. They've never even eaten leather before.
I have eaten leather before, and it doesn't taste like coffee.
Oh, there you go.
Chamberlain, eat that.
I mean, it's an interesting video. It's an interesting choice. What do you think about it, Kirk?
Well, see, part of me, I'm like a little chihuahua sometimes, or like a Jack Russell.
Yeah, just
when someone attacks the coffee industry or, professions with it, I'm just like, I want to bite. But, on first glance, I don't like Emma saying this.
Yeah.
And we've spoken about it, I think it was when Jay Jennings came in. I don't like people picking on the coffee industry. Mm-hmm. And I don't like her picking on the profession, because Q grade is very professional and they play a very important role in getting people good coffee. And, it's something I feel like Emma Chamberlain could probably do with a Q grader working for her. I've tried some of her coffee.
But do you think that's where her attack comes from? That like people are ranking her coffee poorly and she's like, this is her attack at it? Because she's like, I think it's quite an interesting stance. I think she hasn't done it in the right way, but I think it's an interesting point of view. She's clearly wanting to separate herself from the nerdy side of coffee. And she's like trying to be like, coffee's coffee. You can tell by how her coffee tastes that that's what her marketing is. Coffee's coffee. Who cares? You put it in your cup and you taste it and it's great and you move on with your day. And so it's kind of like an interesting stand for her to be against Q graders. What I kind of feel like is a missing element of it, there was no point or no reason at the end for like whether she thinks they're bad or not, or why they're not good, because these people are helping places get good quality coffee. What's your end game here?
Well, maybe she's educating her own audience.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people, it's in a way it's kind of good that she brings it up because it brings more awareness to it.
But she's kind of trash talking them without then a reason. So does she think that Q graders shouldn't exist? Is she saying just buy whatever coffee, don't know what it tastes like, who cares? As long as you're happy with it, be happy with it.
Yeah, and this is the problem I have. Like, why attack people for wanting to be more professional?
Yeah.
And, I don't see wine tasters getting this level of interest.
Yeah.
It's crushed minerals inside of a Pinot Noir. I don't taste that.
Like I said, I understand her standpoint because like ours at Golden Brown Coffee is it's coffee without the snob. It's like obviously we have the education and the tools to help teach you, but it's like enjoy whatever you want. She's clearly taking the approach of like screw coffee nerds and like, oh, it's just a cup of coffee, like just enjoy it and move on. But I just don't think there was kind of a resolution to her point there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's unusual because you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot there, because what if in the future she wants to come out with a higher line of coffee?
Yeah.
We're going to come back to this moment and go, well...
And she might, but I guess that's at the point like where she stands. She doesn't. She just wants to make coffee that's cheap to make, that lots of people can buy. She wants to bring out matcha powders and different like kind of cold brew drinks. Like half of her target audience would be about making iced coffee with vanilla syrup and whatever in it. So I guess at the moment that's not where herself is and it's not really giving her room to grow. But I mean, that's...
Collectively speaking, I just want us all to focus our attention not on baristas, not on Q graders, but if there's what's one profession we should all collectively just pick on a little bit more? Property managers.
Yeah, there you go.
You rent a house, you deal with property managers, and these are the people that I think we should be focusing on.
I think it goes above that though. Imagine being a property manager when you're given like 5,000 properties to manage. You're not getting paid enough. You don't have enough time. Of course, they're annoyed and like when people are asking to do stuff, they're like, you account for none of our budget. Why am I giving you, service here? It's like that higher level of the whole industry is screwed beyond just being a property manager.
Yeah, but still, someone's got to fall on their sword.
It's like the parking inspectors where everyone abuses like a parking inspector.
I feel bad for the parking inspectors.
Well,
I don't feel bad for the property managers.
But still, there's...
Someone's got to fall on the sword. All right, you got an interesting message. You wouldn't tell us what it was. You said, I received a DM and you wanted me and Sammy to react blind to it.
Well, yeah. And I find this such a fascinating message. And I'll preface this to the listener, to the viewer. I don't know if I've met this person, but do I take offense to it or do I take the advice on board? So
interesting.
So in response to a story that I posted, we've got a drink called the Strong Black. I think it's one of the best. I posted a story about it saying I think it's one of the best, and I got this response. Just my 2 cents, Kirk. Ease up on these arrogant big like claims. You're starting to sound like Scott Rao, and nobody wants that. You're very likable, but you can't just shamelessly claim you have the best black coffee in Melbourne, best blend, etc., because it just rubs people the wrong way. It's also disrespectful to other hardworking coffee pros in the city that made you one of the best is okay. Any more and you sound like a prick.
Oh, Jesus.
No.
Just my 2 cents.
Well,
I think I might agree with it. No, I'm just kidding.
Throw it out there because I've got thick skin, and when you post something on social media or you make a podcast, you expect to get a little bit of crap back, as we have, and as we will.
I agree. I just don't think it was the end that kind of lost me. You can't send someone saying like, here's my 2 cents about something. It's like, great, share your 2 cents and like have that kind of point of view. But then to be like, you just seem like a prick. He's obviously pissed off and it's not a friendly message.
Because I'm in two minds. Part of it's like, well, maybe this is someone looking out for me. And, for someone, what an interesting type of person to send a message like that. I would never do that.
I guess he's not saying,
was it a bad?
I guess he's not saying you're a prick. He's like, you start to sound like a prick. I think in the world that you live in, there's like a little bit of showboaty. I think you're an idiot if you think that you're literally saying that you are the best and only one in the city. Like, I think you got to read into the subtext of the message a bit. When someone says like, this is the best, it's just expressing that you think it's really good. And I think it is really good. And you're also promoting a fact that you're not just doing a regular long black anymore. You're using water science to improve the long black. So more so what you're saying is this coffee is better than a regular long black. It's the strong black, right?
I am, but there's something else in there that really I'm curious about. He just wants to go gloves off with Scott Rao, sounds like.
Oh, yeah. Also, one of the biggest coffee professionals in the world. We're just throwing him under the bus.
We are. But, maybe we just put them in a ring, let them sort it out.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Sammy, you're an outsider on this kind of thing from the coffee world. What's your feeling about this message?
My first take is, who makes the rules? He's saying that you're not allowed to do this stuff. It's like, well, who's he to say this?
Yeah.
But also, Probably the audience who sees this post of you saying it's the best coffee can see where the source is coming from. You're not going to believe a review from Adidas by Adidas. It's not like the Melbourne coffee market has said this is the best. It's you saying it's the best.
Yeah, well, this is true.
Yeah. I mean, let's take it with a grain of salt in the nicest way possible and just be like, it's clearly, we do live in a world, in a day and age of social media that I'm a big part of, where you're trying to get people's attention and vie for their attention constantly. And people do this by saying like, this is the best way to do something. So I can see he's probably annoyed with that side of the internet, that every video starts with like, this is the best way to make a toasted cheese sandwich. This is the best way to make blah, 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 blah.
Rating yourself.
Yeah, exactly. But as someone who works really hard to do social media, there's annoying things where it's like, well, stop watching the video and like that video performs the best. So what am I meant to do? Make a video that's going to perform worse just to appease this one guy. So we're stuck in a weird loop here. So I think this guy's just probably annoyed of the internet and all this. This is the best this is the best that, and he's taking it out on you. I think it's pretty harsh when you're just a coffee shop coming out and being like, we make a great long black.
I think it's a classic of don't hate the player, hate the game.
Yeah, there you go. It's the same as we're back to the property management thing. It's the higher levels that we have to hate.
Am I a terrible person for wanting to direct that hate onto someone else?
Yes.
I think he needs a hug, and I'll give you a hug later, Kirk.
Okay.
Yeah, that's karma, right? You put good out in the world, good comes back.
Exactly.
I do think that, if he was really just giving you the 2 cents, it could have been probably a little nicer than how it was worded, but, sure.
I would have left out the word prick.
At least he DM'd it and didn't write it on the message. That's the worst.
It was such an interesting thing because I saw the message and I was eating a focaccia from a bakery that I love. So put yourself in my shoes. I'm just sitting there, legs crossed, got really beautiful focaccia in one hand. Oh, that's interesting. And then I showed my girlfriend. I was like, did you see this? What do you think? She's like, well, that's really strange, isn't it?
Did you spit it out?
The focaccia?
Yeah.
No.
I thought you were going to do a spit take just by...
It takes a certain kind of person to send one of those messages. So
karma, balance out the bad with the good.
Okay.
We just got another little email. We've received a few of these, but I just thought this one was super cute and I thought I'd read it out. From Gareth. I'm just emailing to say that I'm loving the podcast. I started getting properly into coffee about a year ago, been learning coffee recipes, getting into pour overs, and now practicing latte art and loving trying out all sorts of specialty coffee. I just went to my first coffee festival in Brighton, and I'm looking forward to coming to Melbourne to test out some GB and Project Zero. The approach you guys take, you clearly know your bleep, but also keep it light and fun, and it's great listening. I'm making sure to listen to every episode and telling all my friends. And that just made my day, Gareth.
Yeah, well,
thank you, Gareth. That's
we love you, Gareth.
that we like here.
Well, we have a tell two friends rule around here. So if you like the podcast, the best thing you can do is tell two friends for us and for, the world at large. But Gareth, pulling on the heartstrings there.
Yeah, Gareth. Make sure to keep in touch. Let us know if you have anything you want to see on the podcast. We love you, Gareth. And you're also cool that he's from the UK, that we're getting that kind of broad listenership over here. The numbers are going up and up and up on this pod. So it's really cool to see everyone tuning in and wanting to learn more.
And one of the best things for Gareth to go and do if he's only new into the industry is go and try as many coffees from as many coffee shops as you can and going to these expos, because sometimes you find some real gems at the expos. Sometimes you go to one and there's certain exhibitors that you know of, but there's some new ones that you might not have met before, and they have a product they're trying to show the world that's really good. So
yeah, I think that's great. And you know what I think is super wanky, but I kind of want to start doing it because I'm so bad with names of anything, is like a little notebook or something that when I go to a cafe and I get the coffee, just to write down what it is, just thoughts, impressions, and just move on. Because the amount of times where I'm like, had a great coffee there. I'm like, I can remember it was like an Ethiopian or whatever, but I'm like, don't remember the farm, the producer, any of those things. And it's good just to keep it'll make you be better at your tasting notes and recognizing what you're doing, but B, just another great way to kind of remind yourself of what you've been tasting.
You'd restart an app for that. Ron's reviews.
Ron's reviews. It's just coffee. So it's just coffee. Now write down every coffee that you've ever tasted ever.
And where it's from. What farm.
And I don't know about this. I just had the kind of brief idea. I've been talking about wanting to try more cafes. I'm kind of thinking screw Broadsheet. Screw all these lists. Not really. They're fine. But let's let's start our own list of best cafes and coffees to try. I don't know whether it's on the pod or whether we just have like a blog post where we like put it together. Maybe it's an end of year, new year, like 2024, best places. You could do best new coffee places, best coffee, best cafe. I don't know. I thought it would be a cool little list for us to put together.
Little aggregator.
Yeah.
You know, try these. We liked it, so you should try it too, sort of thing.
Let's
So
be
if there's
careful
any-
with the word best, though.
Oh, yeah.
So maybe our best
One of the
experience,
best.
Yeah, so
Sorry.
you come across as a prick.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. But that would be great. Guys, write in. Let us know if there's anywhere you think we should go and try. You can always hit us up at hello@itsjustcoffeepod.com. We love hearing from you. Want to hear your hot takes, what you're liking, what you're not. Just don't call us pricks, please.
I'm getting a lot of people come up to me now saying, "Oh, I heard this hot take," and you know we've done over 20 episodes now, and so it's I've got to jog my own memory because
Mate, every time I write a hot take, I'm like, have I already said this hot take?
Oh, yeah.
My memory is terrible.
I lie down at night. I'm thinking, "Oh, that's going to be a good one for a hot take."
Yeah.
I got a few in the bank.
Oh, that's good. That's good. But write in and let us know if you have any hot takes. That's going to bring us to the end of the episode. Kirk, I'm going to let you. Did you have anything else you wanted to say to the people? Anything to sign off with before we leave them?
Yeah, obviously be careful what you post on social media if you don't want to offend anyone. Yeah, I would echo your thoughts. Write into us. Try as many coffees as you can. One thing I did want to say though that I didn't mention before. My at-home setup, I don't have one, and I love it. I'm drinking instant coffee at the moment.
Oh, right.
I'm drinking some instant, not like the bad stuff. There's some specialty instant, and I like having that separation between my sort of.
I'm the same at the moment.
Yeah, yeah.
I have 32 machines here at the shop, not one at home.
And the way I make the coffee at home is I pour the sachet of instant in, water from the tap in a saucepan because I don't actually have a kettle at home, and just pour the hot water in, and that's my setup.
Yes.
And
What specialty coffee are you using, or are you not plugging at the moment? I actually need to get some at the moment.
Well, there's a customer that comes into my cafe from America. His name's Greg.
Yeah.
Greg the pilot. So he's a pilot, and we're actually going to get him on the podcast.
G-Train.
Enough. So Greg the pilot comes to Melbourne like once a month for work because he's flying between here and California, and he always picks me up little sachets of instant coffee from different cafes in America.
Oh, that's
and brings
nice.
it in. So I'm surviving off those. The one day a week I need to miss Sunday. So every Sunday I have a sachet of instant coffee courtesy of Greg the pilot.
Well, bring in one for me. I'd love to give it a try.
Hey,
Greg the pilot.
Yeah,
we love
but
you, mate.
Currently,
Thank you.
Black and White Coffee over in, I think they're based in Carolina, but they've got some unbelievable instant.
Yeah. All right. Well, that brings us to the end of the episode. Sam, thank you for diving in and helping out.
Thank you.
The delayed thank you is very good.
I like that.
I'm Rohan Cook.
I'm Kirk Pearson.
And it's just coffee.
Headphone drop.